Tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
And I gladly stand up.
My name is Ray Johns. I'm your host, and the name of my show is Voices Not Yet Heard. And like we say every week, we hope that perhaps we can be the vehicle so that your voice will be heard. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I want to tell you that Sandra and I had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We always go to Whole Foods, or at least the last 3 or 4 years, we get a little 3-pound turkey. And this year we did a little something different. We went on Thanksgiving Day to Whole Foods, and we just got what we thought we'd need, so we wouldn't have, you know how you get tired of turkey after 2 or 3 years, or 2 or 3 days. So what we did was we went and we picked out our dinner. It was just absolutely wonderful. I want to talk to you about a couple of things before I bring in my great guest, Gary Miguel. He's back again today, and we're gonna talk. We're all so excited about the things that are happening. And unless you've been out of the country, I mean, out in space someplace or under a rock, this country's rocking, ladies and gentlemen, and it's rocking because of Donald Trump. We're doing wonderful, absolutely wonderfully. You've noticed the Dow has been over 19,000 for the last week or so, and it continues to remain steady or continues to go up, and that is certainly not because of the current administration. We all know that. It's because of the anticipation of Donald Trump marching into the White House on January 20th. I'm so excited, I don't know what to do. I have my great friend, Gary Miguel, here. Gary,
how you doing, Ray?
Welcome back, buddy. We're going to have some fun today. I'm just thrilled to death about what's going on in this country.
Well, you know, the attitude's a little different today.
It sure is, isn't it? I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, something. This man called this months ago when I was nervous. I was so nervous. He called this. He said it's the media. It's rigged. He called this more than anyone else, and so he gets a lot of credit for that. That was absolutely outstanding.
Well, you know, Ray, if you spent some time with it, and what kept giving the clue is, why is it in the same town Hillary's got barely enough people to fill an 8th grade classroom, and Trump's down there overfilling the football stadium?
And you said this 2 months ago.
I mean, it was all along the whole time, right?
And he's telling me, he said, look, Ray, he's playing the crowds of 20,000.
Yeah.
Hillary's playing to 200.
I mean, there's something, that's a clue.
I got to tell you, on November 7th, I had surgery. So November 8th, I'm real groggy, and I'm not knowing. And all my friends are texting me and saying it's looking good. I finally was so groggy, I went to sleep. 3 o'clock in the morning, the nurses come into my room, and I said, do you need blood? Because they always need something. You need to give me a pill. And they said, no, we came to tell you that your candidate won. And I said, you're kidding. I was so excited. I said, give me my clothes. I'm completely cured. I was ecstatic, you know.
You know, that another clue that was, to me, was a big clue, and it was right there all along, and that was the media was coming out with a poll that was close, you know, like that. So, but anyway, when you go into the, I'll just say alternate media or the internet, and there's about 5 or 6 that are fantastic. Well, they tell the truth, but what they were saying with the polls they were taking, it was always Trump by
Exactly.
a landslide.
Exactly.
And I just kept reading that, and I'd hear that, oh man, Trump's behind 2 points here, 4 points. And then I'd go in there, and I'd read that private poll, I guess, or whatever you want to say, and it would be landslide. Oh. And I thought, well, you know, obviously there's a lot of people that aren't familiar with how to do that or want to do that.
I think that was
internet.
it.
But what is happening with that is that the regular major media, which is about 5 or 6 major companies, those are all owned by the establishment.
Sure they are.
Both Democrat, Republican, didn't matter. And these people, if you're an establishment all these years, you've been ripping off the American people for about 50, 60 years, that's coming to an end.
Yes, it is.
So they tried everything they possibly could, through everything they could, to try to destroy Trump. But what Trump kept doing is going to the people.
Exactly.
That was the difference. And now, how does he go and affect the people? Well, he goes in, he puts in the Instagram, he puts in the Facebook,
He was tweeting all the time.
and it's like you're talking to him. It's
Absolutely.
like you know him.
Yeah.
I don't care where you are, but when you do that, you see that often enough, and so pretty soon you feel
Certainly
like,
I felt personal about
yeah,
that.
that's my point. And he knew by doing that he was making a personal contact, not through this media, which we have nothing in common with those people. But if I'm sitting there watching something or reading Twitter or something, there's other people just like me,
Oh, absolutely.
right? And they're making comments, and be surprised how smart some of those comments are, right? So I'm sitting there with that, and here's Trump, just like the rest of us, and after it doesn't take very long, you start to feel like
Exactly.
you know the guy, you've known him all your life. And I think that had a big way of affecting a lot of people.
I think you're right.
But here's what's interesting. If you think about Trump, of course, in the standpoint that he's not a politician, he was not trained to be that
No.
way, and so he discarded all that and just went at it like he thought was common sense. But let's think about something. How big was that win, really? There's 3,100 and some counties in the United States. And I had no idea.
This man is just a wealth of information. I love having him on this
But
show.
there's 3,100, over 3,100 counties, okay? How many did Hillary win?
I don't know. You tell me, because I know you know.
It's going to shock you. She won 57.
Are you kidding
I
me,
knew it would
Gary?
shock you.
It does shock me.
Yep.
She won 57
She won
out of 3,000
57.
plus?
Trump won 3,084, I believe
Oh,
it was.
my gosh. And they were predicting Hillary a long time. You know, I told you before, I said Hillary, somebody said something about Hillary and her staff were picking out their inaugural
Oh,
ground.
yeah.
So you're getting ready to pick it for their inaugural ball. Well,
My God, as smart as Hillary is supposed to be and her staff, why didn't they just go to the internet like some of the rest of us did, for crying out loud? If they wanted to
shows you how
arrogant.
arrogant they were.
That's
They
how
thought-
arrogant they
and
are,
who did
exactly,
that? The
exactly.
liberal media did that.
Absolutely.
They fooled everybody,
Right.
including,
Well, and they think-
including them.
And they think they can fool everybody.
Yeah.
That's the problem with them is, number one, they think they could fool everybody, and they look down on everybody, way beneath them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're up here in this, I don't know, I'll call
What
it
happened,
ivory
Gary,
tower.
is when it comes down to it, they fooled themselves.
They fool
What did.
themselves, and they're not near as smart as they think they
No,
are.
they're not.
And I was thinking about how smart is Hillary. My God, she wasn't even smart enough to realize that if she's got a private server that she's got the country's most intimate secrets being exposed to the world.
You know, and
how
that-
smart is that?
That's another thing. When they asked Donald Trump, you know, I was talking to Gary before the show here today, and I was saying the one thing that worried me about Donald Trump was how resilient was he going to be? I mean, you know, was he going to be able to bend a little bit? And he's proven that. He said, you know what? I'm not even interested in dealing with that now. I'm not interested in dealing with Hillary Clinton. I'm interested with getting on with making this country great again, and that's exactly what he's done. He's, you know,
That's right.
And it's like you said, what a brilliant move to consider Mitt Romney as Secretary of State. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's bringing the party together. This is exactly what and Ryan, you were talking about. With
Yeah,
Paul
Paul Ryan, and there's another facet to it that may be, and that is that so many people, including myself, don't like Mitt Romney.
Yeah, me too. I didn't like him. I didn't like the things he said about Trump.
All right,
you know?
and I that's right. And because of that personal thing that everybody has with, if you're a Trumper, you're just like family, and if somebody attacks a member of your family,
Oh, yeah.
they're in trouble, not you, right? So that's kind of the mentality,
Yeah.
right? Well, then Ryan is the same thing. People don't like him any better than they do
Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney. Well, but Trump's going to have to deal with this. And there's other side of it, and I'm not saying that is the fact, but I'm just saying I think it could be.
I think you're right.
Okay, what they do is Trump picks Romney, and my God, the uproar is unbelievable.
From our own party, mostly. That's
Right,
actually
right.
from our own
Well,
party.
yeah, because the other party's
Yeah.
not smart enough to even figure that much
Yeah.
out, But the point is he sits there and he receives all this uproar.
Mm-hmm.
That's sending a signal to Paul Ryan that I better go along with what Trump's saying, or man, this is going to be a tough way to go.
And that's what's happening.
And that's
you
what's
know?
happening,
You
yeah.
know, I've sit back, and I got to say this, and I said this probably 10, 15 shows ago, that, I wanted a president that could get through all this. I mean, we started with 17 candidates, including Mr. Trump. And one by one, he got through them. Plus, he got through all the resistance from our own party.
Right.
That's the kind of man I want
Right.
for president. I mean, he fought like mad. He was persistent,
Right.
and he prevailed.
Right. And the people in our own party, when you really consider it, they lost touch of the common you and I long ago. right?
Absolutely, Gary.
So, and everybody could recognize that. I mean, I see the Republican, I'm supposed to be a Republican, I see the Republican. Well, they have nothing more in common with them than I do the Democrats.
Absolutely.
As far as the leadership.
Yeah.
Okay, so a guy like Trump comes along, he has to pick a party. I mean, he picked Republican, and thank God he did.
Yeah.
Because he was a Democrat for a lot of
I
years.
know he was. He was a Democrat for years and
Well,
years.
so was a lot of other Republicans, including myself.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I was a Democrat.
and so-
I've been a Republican since 1976, so I'm a 40-year-old Republican.
There you go. So, as far as the people within the Republicans, I guarantee you they would not have been as excited or anything had it been anybody but Trump.
Isn't this an exciting time, Gary?
Well,
I mean,
yeah, it is.
we're seeing history. We've already seen it, and to
Right.
me, like you and I talked about several shows ago, this is the most exciting time in my life.
Well-
right now, the
well,
most exciting time ever for me.
Well, and it should be for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that's American, it should be. And because here's how significant it is, and history will go back and someday and of course, talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But think about this. This was the most critical time in terms of the direction of the country
Mm-hmm.
since the Civil War. If we go back to that time period, you realize there was two countries,
Yes, there were.
two presidents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, President Jefferson Davis of the South,
Right, it's
and
hard-
Abraham Lincoln for the North. Yeah,
Exactly. So it's hard for us to even realize, or the fact there was two countries. But Lincoln wanted to bring those countries together, right? And of course, that's the war.
Yeah.
And that was one of the most brutal wars that's ever been.
Certainly in our history, it was the most
carnage.
brutal.
If-
As far as everyone that got killed was an American, regardless of what
And it
side
was
you
fathers against sons, sons against brothers, and
Brothers against brothers,
Right,
yeah.
right. Okay, then some of those battles, like that one at Gettysburg, that
Oh,
was
my gosh.
103,000 casualties in the period of just 3 days.
were. Oh my gosh! I,
mean,
knew
the-
it was high, Gary. I didn't know it was that high.
Yep, and the-
103,000.
There's creeks there that were just running red with blood.
I've heard that.
You heard of that, right? But let's just go through that. Imagine how awful that had to be to save the United States, one way or another.
Yes.
But it's hard for us today to conceive
Oh, yes,
how
it-
awful that had to be, and the suffering and the misery that everyone went through.
And then afterwards, we had the Reconstruction period, which lasted a long time. It took a long time
Oh
for this
my
country
God,
to
yeah.
come together.
But think about that for a moment, and now let's run the clock forward to right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about two directions this country was going to go in,
Mm-hmm.
and I guarantee you that one direction with Hillary is communism.
Absolutely.
And people don't like to talk about it, but
It was
why is
true.
it then that everything that defines communism, why is it that everything is in her doctrine? And what they have been doing little by little
Mm-hmm.
to make it possible, and all they needed was this election.
Oh, that's right. There was 8 steps. You explained the 8
Right.
steps, and we'd already done 5 of them.
Right.
And the election was, I think, 6,
yeah.
and 7 and 8 was going to automatically
Right.
fall into place.
Exactly.
You know?
It was already
It was
in place.
scary. I
Yeah.
mean, the things I learned from you scared me to death. That's why I was so scared on the 7th. I was just going, please.
Well,
you
Ray,
know?
here's what's nice about it is we have reached the point in our call it American culture or whatever you want to call it, but a shot was not fired to have this done.
No.
There was not an
Like the
army.
Civil War,
right.
yeah.
And as an example, even then, I mean, somebody was dressed in gray, somebody was dressed in blue. I could tell who the enemy was, right?
Yeah.
But they were right here among us.
And with what was going on now, we couldn't tell who the enemy was all the time.
Oh, you couldn't tell who the enemy was, and with even in family, just like it was a Civil War. There was some for the North, some for the South, right in the kitchen table. We had the same thing now, didn't we? There's some
Yes,
that are
we did.
Republicans and some are Democrats.
Yes, we did.
Some were communists, whether they realize it or not, but that's what they are.
All I know is, ever since this happened, I haven't been able to quit smiling. I'm so happy. I'm a great patriot of this country. I'm a very conservative Republican, probably as conservative as you can be. And for me, what a victory. What an outstanding victory for this country and for the people of this country. And we talk about returning the country to greatness. You know, he's returning the country to we the people.
Well,
you know?
he's a patriot.
Yes, he is.
And guess what? The liberals were surprised about, or the communists, I should say, the Hillary backers, but they were surprised they didn't realize the power of patriotism.
Oh my gosh! I mean, it was like he said. This was a movement, Gary, and what a great movement! You know, I mean, never in history of politics has there been a movement like we've seen with Trump. You know,
Absolutely.
I mean, it's still exciting, and then to watch him, the man never rests. I mean, when does he sleep?
That's
When
what I
does Donald
wondered.
Trump sleep?
Yeah.
I mean, he's working on Thanksgiving. He's having cabinet meetings on Saturday and Sunday to work on putting his cabinet together. And by the way, some of the people he has put together, and the liberal is still jumping on him. You know, calling people racist. And I hope people will take a lesson for
Ray,
what happened.
my
during
God,
this
they look
election.
so foolish now.
They look stupid. Is what they look.
I mean, at one time, maybe you kind of listen, and the
Yeah.
first you say, oh, my God, you know.
You
What,
can't see through this. It's almost like a slap in the face to the American people when they come out and say, well, you know, like, oh, gosh, he's appointing all this thing. And the problem is these idiots that are out in the street rioting and going through all this stuff, they believe that, which tells you that, you know, and first of all, my mother had a saying, if you don't vote, you don't have a voice.
She's
These
right.
people don't have a voice. They
Good
went through
advice.
there and found out that 70% of these idiots
Right.
that are out there rioting
What-
and hurting our law enforcement officers, they don't vote. So guess what? You don't have a voice.
You don't have a voice. And the people that are, when we think about, again, you know, that how the peaceful way that this took place, even as it is compared to what it was during the Civil War,
War.
right? I mean, we can't even comprehend that, quite frankly.
No.
And but people I'd wear a Trump hat, and they'd ask me. Some people would ask me, you know, and they'd say, "Oh, you're voting for Trump." They didn't say anything more. They didn't say who they were voting.
No.
They just said, "Oh, you're voting for Trump."
I got a lot of that. I wear these. I
Yeah.
told everybody I'm going to wear these until Donald Trump Mr. Trump steps in and becomes president of the United States. And I'm still wearing them, and I will continue to wear them.
Well, here's the thing. I'd answer it this way, that question. I'd say, you know, I was raised with too much respect, trust, and to be trustworthy, and not lie and all that. For me to turn around, I think too much of myself, quite frankly, to turn around and vote for a known, proven liar, crooked,
Great statement, Gary.
corrupt,
Great statement. I'm right along with you.
incompetent criminal. Now, by the way, who are you voting for?
Oh, yeah.
Dead silence. If
Oh,
it
yeah,
was a
there's going to
Clinton
be
time.
silence, you know? I mean, who's going to say, oh, well, I'm voting for Hillary? No, they're not going to say anything.
Yeah, and I think that the awareness part is really starting to multiply. I just read something the other day. It was really interesting. They figured that 15% of the people who voted for Hillary would now vote for Trump if there was an election today.
Oh, I heard something. I didn't know it was
Yeah.
15%. I heard something
Well,
about that.
I mean, that's
It
what it was
an
in. It
article.
might even be 30%. But,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, there was a little article in the Wall Street Journal. I can't remember even who, because I read the Wall Street Journal
Right.
almost on a daily basis. So
Well, Trump's not going to be perfect, of course. What is
No.
perfect, but the thing is that you can't deny that he's a patriot, and you can't deny that he's a hard worker.
You know, Gary and I talked about this before. Donald Trump didn't really want this. He
No,
really didn't.
no.
And it's like we said before. He looked around. He saw what direction this country was in, and he tried to find somebody else that would do this. He couldn't find anyone, so he stepped in and did it himself. And thank goodness he did.
Well, you know, he thought about it 4 years ago,
That's what I heard. Yeah.
but he also felt that Mitt Romney would be the answer, and he was disappointed that Mitt Romney
Didn't win. Yeah, he
Didn't
just kind of
win,
kicked
yeah.
back and let it go.
And so then when it came this time around, he figured, wow, I got no choice.
Yeah.
But we could approach that from any angle, and one of them would be the prophecy that it was prophesied, and there is some
There's a lot of truism
Yeah.
to that. Absolutely.
I had an interesting thing because I was telling this fellow was a priest, and I was talking with him, and I said, well, he had a calling because priests have calling,
Sure
or
they do.
any preacher,
Yeah.
And he said, no, it wasn't a calling. I said, what? He says he was chosen. He has no choice. And
I love that. I love that. I remember you said that once before, and it's true.
Yeah.
I believe it totally.
Well, when you sit there and think about this for a minute, Ray, the guy's got a 250-foot yacht sitting out there in the Bahamas somewhere. He can't even enjoy it. He's got that 757. He can fly in the world, go to any golf course in the world, and he can't enjoy it.
No.
That thing's used for business. I mean, it's used for our business. And I tell you what, a lady told me something that really hit home to me. He says, and also he wears a bulletproof vest for you and me.
Yes.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have to wear that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He's making a tremendous sacrifice.
The man is 70 years old. He's running all over the country like he's about 30 with all of this energy. I mean, I would never have done this. I'd have been sitting on my yacht. I'd have been playing golf. I'd have been
that's what
flying
most
all over
people do.
At that age, absolutely.
Unless they've been chosen.
Yeah, great point. Great point. Unless they've been chosen. Gary, we're going to take a little break here. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in 2 and 2.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died.
I'm back with my great guest, Gary Miguel. And we've said this before, that Gary and I, that, it's such an exciting time to be alive, to be a patriot, to be an American, and we're history in the making. And you don't necessarily have to have a radio show like Gary and I are on to be a part of this. I mean, just being an American, we're watching history, and that is so exciting to me.
Well, it is, and I think that, in fact, Robert and I were talking about that just a while ago, is that not only is Trump doing a lot in terms of what he has to do as far as the cabinet people and he went and got those carrier jobs to stay here. What he's doing is just amazing and doing it quick, right?
And he hasn't even taken taken office yet, and he goes into Indiana, which of course is our vice president-elect.
Right.
Pence is the governor of that state. But anyway, he goes in there and he
Right.
saves how many jobs? 1,000
Well,
jobs,
1,000
I think
jobs,
you said?
and there's 1,300 jobs that still may move to Mexico, but he has so far saved 1,000 jobs.
That is
okay?
amazing.
Now-
And the man hasn't even taken office yet.
And he's not the president, but everybody in the world thinks he is. And
Yes, and
I'll tell you proof of that. There's about 50 foreign country leaders have called Donald Trump the first week.
I don't know how many people.
He's not the president.
I don't know how many people saw 60 Minutes last week when they had the Italian premier on. He's young. He's like 43, 44 years old, and this man just loves Trump. Yeah. He's all excited about what's going to happen in his country because
That's
of
right.
the election of
I'll
Donald
tell you
Trump.
who's really going to benefit is Mexico. I think down the road.
Mexico's going to benefit well, and you talked about that on an earlier show.
I think Mexico is going to benefit, and I look at Mexico as something like this. I always compare them to Japan, and I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. Mexico has more natural resources than Japan, and Mexicans has the labor.
They have the labor.
There's
There's no reason-
there's no better labor in the world than what Mexico has.
There's no reason why they can't be a
Of
super
course.
prosperous country.
Oh my God,
you
they
know?
should be one of the more prosperous in the world instead of what they're doing, and that's because of a corrupt government. Though.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're headed that way.
Yeah.
And we've been headed that way. More so,
No more.
but more so than what. That's what scared me.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh man, if that woman got in there,
Well-
and it would just be absolutely.
I learned so much from you
catastrophic,
about that, and I'm telling you, I was on the 7th. The surgery didn't scare me. Hillary Clinton winning the next day really scared me.
I kept putting landslide. People would ask me, and I just answer one way: landslide.
You
landslide.
said that. You said that a month before the election. You said that a month before, and it all came to be true.
But you
know?
look at the map, and there's a red all over, and a little bit of blue over here. But that blue's got all the people. But I thought about that. It's got all the people. Now, who are those people that in that blue? They're people that are on welfare, and they're people that are multi-millionaires. There's no middle class.
No. They're just top and bottom. That's
Yeah,
it. You know?
yeah, and that's who voted for her.
Yeah.
I mean,
And he's already talked about going into the inner cities. We got these
Yeah.
people out there rioting, going absolutely crazy. This thing that I hate so very, very much, and they don't realize they don't realize what the Democrats have done to them, what the liberals have done to them. We have worse race relationships right now under Obama than we've had in the history of my life. In my life, this is worse than the '60s. We have more poverty. We have more people,
Right.
more Americans out of work. 97 million Americans unemployed in this country.
and I think that this is a time where there's going to come, which is needed, and there's a big void there, but there needs to be a black leadership come to the surface somewhere. Now, of course, we got like Sheriff Clark. He's
Great
somebody
man. Ben Carson.
Ben Carson, Scott, that Reverend Scott.
Oh, yeah. Good
Okay.
man.
But somewhere we need something like that.
And I think someone's going to emerge, and
and
we
I
do
think
need
there
that.
will
We
be.
do need that,
But here's the thing, too. What Trump is doing, it's affecting everyone in a positive way, and that is the fact that now you can have hope and spirit. And communism takes all that away. And
Yes, it
Hillary
does.
was hell-bent for doing that.
Yeah.
But now you have hope and spirit throughout the country, because when you think about it, you and I aren't the only ones that are excited. All over America.
All over America.
And-
All over America.
And Trump's employs, people don't realize this, he employs 67,000 people
Oh, my
in the
gosh.
world.
I did not know that.
Yeah. 67,000 people that he employs. And they're worried about, well, can he manage this?
He's not going to have to. He's got 3 brilliant children.
Well,
absolutely brilliant. That's going to run his companies. He's going to run America.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what's neat about that and what people have to realize. Let's go back, and that's the way it was designed originally by the forefathers. The government was supposed to be something that the people who ran the government were the citizens. So who were these people? They had businesses.
There were shopkeepers. There were most of them were farmers, that type
And
of
most of them were farmers. At a tremendous sacrifice did each and every one of them go and serve the country. And it wasn't a thing where you say, I'm going to run for Congress. Somebody knocked on your door and says, you're running for Congress.
Absolutely.
And it was your
That's
duty
what it
no
was.
more than it would be that you got drafted by the Army. And you suffered greatly by that. So here you were. Maybe you're president, president of the United States, but at the same time, man, you got to keep that farm going.
Yeah. That's why.
So why are they worried about Trump keeping his business going? That's why you don't see it anywhere where you have to give up your business to run for office.
Yeah.
Now you think about it, who would you rather have? A professional politician or somebody that's out among us that now gets tapped on the shoulder? Ray, you got to go up there and sit in that congressman chair for at least 2 years.
Well, Gary, and you and I have talked about this before, and people have said that, and it just irks me when they say, well, he's not a politician when he was running. I said, well, we've tried politicians. That hadn't worked too well.
Well,
the last time we had a non-politician was the best president I've ever seen in this country, and that was Ronald Reagan.
Right. But let's just go back to the history for, say, the first 100 years. Those people, like Abraham Lincoln, or a number of those people that, like Daniel Boone and those people served their country as a service, not to get rich.
No, because they couldn't pay them anything for it. They didn't get any
They
paid.
couldn't pay him anything.
Yeah, they didn't get paid.
I remember when Lewis and Clark came with that. Jefferson had them come out to the Pacific Ocean, $2,500, and man, they had to come out of their own pocket to pay for
Absolutely.
some of those beads they were giving the Indians to stay there. What I'm saying is, people, it was expected that, by God, you better be a good businessman, because that's why we want you up there for 2 years.
Sure.
Not, you can't have a business, we don't want you. What do you want? Well, what did it become? Professional politicians.
Absolutely.
And that's what's wrong with it.
That's exactly
Because
what's
they
wrong.
don't go there to serve the country, they go there to serve themselves.
Special interest.
And
It's
they
called
come out of there a
special
millionaire.
interest.
Do they
Yeah.
have the same kind of health insurance we all do? No.
They do not.
Do they have the same kind of retirement we all do? Of course not.
No.
So what I'm getting at, I'd love Trump to say it, because he did say this, but he said he's going to, give the kid. I'd love for him to say, you know what, I'm going to run two things. I'm running that Trump outfit, and I'm running this United States. How's that on you?
I love it. By the way, I need to tell you that if you're watching me right now, we're live. Feel free to call in. The number will appear on the screen, and we'd like to hear from you, especially now that we're all headed in the right direction. I'd like to hear from you, even if you don't think the way Gary and I think. That's fine. Yeah. Call in. We'd like to talk to you. We would like to have your opinion. That's what Voices Not Yet Heard is all about. It's about voices, people voicing their opinion. So feel free to call in.
Ray, can you imagine? Let's get back to that Civil War. Okay. Because that was a period when this country was like maybe never. Mm-hmm. It came that close. Well, right now it was a period like this country would maybe never. Mm-hmm. And history will come to show that. And never in history we've been at this point. Now think about what that 50, 60, or 100 years of propaganda especially in the last 8 years, through our school system, through our media. And think about the indoctrination to the point where you got people that are 18, 19, 20, 25 years old crying and needing a coloring book and a puppy to go home with.
My goodness, can you
ready
imagine that?
Can you imagine in the Civil War, that brutal as that was to save the country, and did those people come into their school and say, I need a puppy and I need a coloring book? Oh, and by the way, I bought some Play-Doh.
Yeah. And we're going to bring you hot chocolate to help because Hillary lost and you're crying and you're going through all this
stuff.
And
you're seeing that.
And it's like I said, what they needed was a good whack on their backside.
Absolutely.
And to wake up and realize how fortunate you were to live in this country, and you should be grateful. I couldn't believe these babies crying about this.
That snowflakes, they call them. I understand why they do, obviously. But I'm thinking, well, man, this country is awful susceptible to... You just push it in the United States. It goes off the ocean, and that came that close with Hillary.
Absolutely, we did.
Can you imagine now, had Trump not won?
Can
you imagine if he didn't even run?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with Cruz, Bush? Mm-hmm. They're all together. They're all owned by the establishment. There wouldn't be any difference.
Oh yeah, there's no difference.
It may have slowed down that communist part for maybe 4 years. Mm-hmm. That's all. It'd still be going with that outfit. They're professional politicians.
How long, as far as I'm concerned, how long has it been since we had a leader of this country that wasn't susceptible to special interests? It's been a great, Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan would be.
Yeah, and that's, that we're talking about back in the 80s.
He did some things that was amazing, And I think you're going to see that now.
I think you are. I think you're going to see it with Donald Trump.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Hillary was looking at it from power.
Of course she was.
And, of course, enriching herself.
Exactly.
Okay, but here's the thing that she was seeing it as a stepping stone to be the most powerful person in the world.
Not the country, but the world.
But the world, yeah. And so her interest was not the country. Her interest was the world. And that is proven by the fact that she put our country in such jeopardy. I mean, who started ISIS?
She did. Her and Barack Obama.
There was no ISIS before those two.
When they pulled out of Iraq,
right.
ISIS, reared their awful head.
Right.
These Islamic idiots, as I call them.
That's
what happened. And I'll tell you something else. America, watch and see what we do to ISIS. I can't wait for his plan. And, I really hope, this is my own personal pick, I hope he picked General Petraeus as his Secretary of Defense.
I don't know about that. I'm concerned about him.
Are you? Because of what happened with
No, I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried about, he's a world globalist type guy.
Well, he is. He is that.
And I'm a little concerned about
I'd love to have a military man as Secretary of Defense. State.
But you know what? I think about this a little, and I do. Like with Mitt Romney, I'm not crazy about him. Obviously, I'm not crazy at all about him.
Yeah. And I'm with you.
Petraeus, I'm kind of like that. But here's the thing I'm thinking. Whoever he picks, I guarantee you there's a reason. Because all I know is what I'm seeing in the paper or something like that.
Mitt Romney was a shocker to me.
Absolutely.
I was very shocked when he said that.
So I just have faith in that.
I do too. I have faith in Donald Trump. Whoever he picks is going to be the perfect person.
Well, and
I believe that.
And the people he hires to run, I mean, you look at these people, and if he runs that thing like he runs his business, there's going to be some people very unhappy, obviously.
Yeah.
But here's what.
But it's going to work, Gary.
Of course. And here's what I get. I've had a couple times, a government employee today will say, well, I'm afraid Trump. Oh, no, I don't want Trump because we're running this way, you know. And this, I mean, I'm talking about a middle employee.
Yeah.
And I always answer this way. I said, why in the world should you be worried about Donald Trump being president of the United States? Oh, because, you know, my job, I'm worried. I said, listen, what did he say? He says that all the time. I'm only going to hire the best.
He reminds me
So why
much-
are you worried?
Yeah, he reminds me so much, and I've said this before, you know, of Henry Ford in the 1930s when they came to him and they said, "You're a genius." He said, "No, I'm not. I just surround myself
Right.
with geniuses," and that's exactly what Donald Trump is
Well,
doing.
and he is going to hire the best,
the best.
and he's going to make people accountable just like you would be accountable if you was working for a private business,
Yes,
because you're accountable to the people.
that's yeah.
More
that's
so than
exact-
maybe anybody. I can choose my client, but you can't choose the citizens of the United States. You got to service. You're working for us all.
And that's what he said more than
So,
once. You know,
so any government employee that's worried about losing their job, it's because they already know in advance that they're not capable of working anywhere else.
thank you. Good statement.
You see.
Great statement.
And so if you're good, which there are obviously, I'd say a third of all the government employees are probably pretty darn good, you know. And same thing with school teachers. Well, don't worry about it when Trump comes in because you have nothing to worry about because he's already said he only wants to hire the best.
Absolutely.
So are you thinking you're not the best? Is that what you're saying to me?
That's what, in a sense, that's what they're saying when they're worried.
Well, that's why the conversation ends right there.
It does end right there.
Right there. Yeah. Because they're just, oh, wait a minute.
I tell you, you know, the man hasn't even taken office, and I am so, we can see, unless, like I said, unless you've taken a trip to Mars or you've been under a rock or in a cave, you can't help but see the direction of this country right now before the man even takes office.
Well, it's a leadership thing that happens with the people themselves now feel better.
They do.
And so if they feel better, what do? You know, he can't do it all. He's not, but everybody feels a little better about what's going on, as evidenced by the stock market. Mm-hmm. I mean, what's that? That's indicative of it's
Oh
an
my
emotional
gosh,
thing.
higher than it's
Yeah.
ever been. You know,
And I don't necessarily believe that it's going to continue like that because markets run in cycles that have nothing to do with any one human being.
yes,
And Trump did warn last summer. He said that the market has gotten so there's this big balloon that could
burst.
burst.
Yeah,
In fact, he even went so far as to say, "Get out of it."
yeah.
You know, and people have called me and they'll say, "Well, should I buy this gold or should I do this?" I says, "No." You know, I said, "There's a time to do it."
There's a push toward gold and
Yeah.
silver for, you know.
Well, and the gold come down like I couldn't believe how much it come down, about $100 an ounce there in a very short period of time. You
Oh
know?
my gosh, I didn't know it came that far.
I got a friend of mine in Alaska that mines gold, and he was telling me about it. Well, I look at the market, but the people are going to do a better job because they're going to feel more spirited.
That's what's happening right now.
Yeah.
They're feeling spirited.
Yeah,
You know, and they
that's right.
They're getting their confidence back. You know, this country, ladies and gentlemen,
right.
is returning to where it should be, and it's excited to be a part of it. It's exciting to sit and watch this happen on a daily basis.
Well,
That's what's happening.
There's a lot of people who are very, very good at what they do or if they don't have the spirit or the incentive or the ambition, they're gonna sit back. But how many times all of us do that, right? We're sitting there
Sure.
and all of a sudden, man, I feel good today. I feel like doing something, right? So I think a lot of people are just going to automatically do more, which really do more, but it helps them personally.
You know, I was telling Gary just prior to the show that I've got this friend, happens to be Caucasian, happened to be real liberal, and he told me today, he said, you know, I'm beginning to see a difference. This man is a liberal from the get-go. And he told me, he says, I'm starting to see a difference. He said,
Is that right?
I'm excited. And he's a Democrat, he's liberal, and how many more feel like that? They're
That's right.
They're starting to realize,
yeah,
Gary,
people
what's
start
going on in
feeling-
this country.
And when you feel good about yourself and about your government, about your environment, you can't help but improve.
Absolutely.
And you can't help but feel like you're being competitive and wanting to be and wanting to do something. And there are a lot of people that you may think are lazy or something like that. It's because they don't have the incentive.
They don't have the incentive. I'm going to tell you something. I'm a small business owner, okay? And I've had some really, really good years. It's a great lucrative business. And I am so excited about 2017. I'm going to make some money. And I'm excited about that.
Well, I mean, I think everybody has opportunity, you know. And I've talked to you before about that girl that makes burritos in the morning,
Oh, yeah.
you know. And I was talking to her, in fact, just this morning.
Tell that story if you would, Gary. That's a great story, and some people may have missed that.
Well, she's 31 years old now, but she come over here. She was born in 1985, so that seems pretty recent for
yeah,
me. You
yeah,
know?
she's a kid.
And so anyway, she swam the river with her dad, and she was 17 years old. And she went to high school there at Lemoore, and then I think it was Lemoore. Anyway, she married a local man and he happens to be a honky, you know. And I asked her one day, I says, "Why in the world?" I says, because her last name doesn't Mexican, you know.
Yeah.
I said, well, "Why in the world did you marry a honky?" He said, "Oh my God," he says. She says, "I didn't want to end up barefoot and pregnant my whole life." But anyway, she at that time, this has been about 5-6 years ago now, that she asked me about, because she knew I'd been in real estate and this and that. She says, "I'm thinking, my husband and I are thinking about buying a couple houses for rentals." And I said, "Well, yeah, that'd be good." And they're thrifty, boy. They saved. In fact, they didn't get on cable TV or anything because they wanted to save that.
Save money, yeah.
And they had enough for down payment. And she said, "We'd like to get 3 houses." I said, "No, you won't stop there," because I talked to her and her husband both. I mean, I seen the kind of people they were, and I said, "No, you're going to have more than that. You'll have at least 10." And she, "Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. We won't do that." Pretty soon, boom, 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 boom. Right? How we doing, man? She's, and I'd go by. She'd want me to come by and look at the properties they were buying, and there was no pride of ownership. She was buying for income.
Yes.
Right. But she was filling a need.
Yes.
And they'd fix these houses up for her husband, and they had a guy working with them. This kind of went on, and she had 10.
Oh, my goodness.
I talked to her the other day, and we talked a little bit this morning. They now have 20 rentals.
That's an American success story. I love it. I absolutely love it.
She's from a little town, a little village north of Guadalajara. Her dad was born in Mexico City, her mother in Guadalajara. Here's what she said. This was really it. She says, "I just cannot believe these American kids." And she's a kid herself. And she says, "To me, all I see is opportunity." So I asked her.
I love that.
I says, out of that 20 rentals, after you paid everything, after everything's gone and everything, you know, your maintenance and your insurance and all of it, I said, "How much do you actually take home a month?" She said, "Well, right now we take home $6,000. Now think about that, $6,000 a month that she's making, but she's still there at 4:30 in the morning making burritos. And her husband's not only is working out there at the base, gassing airplanes, he's run a little lawnmower service.
See? Hard work, the American way.
She's
$72,000 a year extra income?
Think about that. And she's going to go to Europe. They got a trip planned to tour in Europe. They're going to go to Bora Bora. And it's not like they're sitting there not enjoying life.
Gary, this is an American success story. This is what America's all about.
But
It always has been.
But she can't. She asks me that all the time. She can't understand. She says, "Why is it that these American people that are born here, why aren't they doing it?" It's because they don't know how, don't have the incentive, don't have or don't even have the knowledge, or think they can't.
Or they're lazy, Gary. There's a lot of
Well,
people
there's
that
a
are just
reason,
plain lazy.
and you can.
You know?
Well, you know what? Yes, you are. But I've seen lazy people that all of a sudden when they're doing something that they realize that they're benefiting
That's
with
why
an
you
incentive.
said incentive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, if I'm sitting here on welfare, sitting in a place and I can't go anywhere, there's nothing else for me to be but lazy. Right?
Well, you and I said earlier when we're talking about the liberals and the liberal left that we didn't blame the guy that's on. We blamed the system
Absolutely.
for putting him in that
And that's
position.
the purpose of a communist, to turn a communist into
Yes.
because of the useful idiots.
Yeah.
Well, you buy them and you own them.
Why should a guy go out and look for a job where he's going to make half of what the state's going to pay him?
Well,
he's not going to do that.
Well, what we had at one time was slavery, and they were just blacks that were slaves. Now we have whites that are slaves, Mexicans that are slaves, yellows that are slaves. Why? Because of the system.
Sure.
And what does it take? It takes away the incentive.
Sure, it does.
But what does it do? It buys the votes to put the people and come out of if you don't come out of Congress a millionaire, you did something wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
You see what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so, to me, that's the biggest racist thing in the
Sure
world.
it is. That's why they go, like you and I said, every 4 years, they come around every
Right,
4 years
right.
to get the votes and
Right.
promise these people
Right.
all these things. And these people believe it. That's what's so sad to me.
Well, it
They-
is
they
sad,
buy it.
and but then, my God, if you're 24/7 with coming out of that TV is nothing but propaganda, owned by the
Media,
established-
the establishment,
who own
absolutely.
the billionaires that have been taken from the American people.
We're talking about being brainwashed.
Yeah, and I'll just make a simple thing to understand. Okay, let's just take, for instance, you're a company. You and I have a company. We're Carrier. We take it over to Mexico to have built. Can they afford it en masse? No, they can't. They go there with a fan, right? Let's take it over to America. You could be on welfare and afford a air conditioner.
Yeah.
So where's that welfare recipient getting the money to buy that air conditioner from the American
From
taxpayer?
the taxpayers.
That's
exactly, Yeah.
right, and people have to realize that. And we talked about not complaining or not blaming the people on welfare because the system is against them getting off of it.
Sure they are.
I know people that would like to get off of it, but they can't because of some kind of a little requirement or regulation.
Plus the fact they can't really afford it. They can't live as good off of it, unless
Well,
they
of
go out.
course
and-
not. But so if we now think about if we're billionaires and we got this company and we're making tons of it, and there's only one place that's got the money to buy it is the United States, we're going to ship it to the United States, right? It's the only country that can afford it in mass. Everybody else is poverty.
I'm going to put my mom in here because it was
Yeah.
just her birthday on November 22nd, and I miss her so much. And I remember her saying a lot of times, she was so proud of the fact that she was never on welfare. And she used to say all the time, and I love it, she'd say, my children have never eaten a piece of welfare bread unless they ate it at somebody else's house. Now, this was a lady who only got to the 5th grade, who got out and worked every single day, who worked 2 jobs, who did whatever it could to feed and take care of her children. And that's an American.
I remember when Ray told me that when I first met him, and man, that really has stuck with me
Thank you,
forever.
Gary.
Because I'm thinking, no, that's a good way of put it, and that's what she did. And I mean, if that isn't something in the
I'm
world
so
to be
proud of her.
of.
I'm
Oh,
just so proud of
absolutely.
my mother for being the kind
Yeah.
of person that she is because, and I tell everybody all the time,
Yeah.
every good thing that happens to me, Gary, in this life is because of the parents I had.
Well,
every
that's
bad
right.
thing that's happened to me is because of the stupid mistakes I made.
Yeah. Well, that's taking responsibility for yourself and accountability to yourself. And this is something that Democrats will not do and will
Ever,
not teach
ever.
people to do.
Yeah.
They always find some excuse and blame describes a liberal.
Yes,
Responsibility and accountability describes a conservative.
absolutely.
And that goes all the way down to, my God, your guard dog guarding your house.
I love it. It does, and it does.
You know.
What a great way to put it.
And so that your mom had it in her mind that she believed in what we just talked about. She believed in what she taught was responsibility and accountability for your
Accountability,
actions.
absolutely.
She didn't go. Now you look because of the propaganda. You got to blame and excuse them. Oh, I got an excuse. I'm on welfare. You broke that window. Yeah, but you can't blame me because heck, I'm living here in this poverty and I got mad, so I threw a rock through it. But it's not my fault.
Oh, no, it's not my fault at
Yeah,
all.
That's it. So I think what you're going to see with Trump is a change. It's going to take a while.
Sure it is.
But it's not going to take as long as you
Change
think.
in attitude of absolutely.
It's
I'm
not gonna
looking
take
forward
as-
to that.
Well, it's not going to take as long as you think because let's face it, we also have pride, and if we have a little bit of pride and a reason to have pride, then we're going to be responsible and accountable, aren't
Sure.
we? Absolutely. And because pride's taken away when you're just sitting there like a bump on a log.
Sure.
And how in the world can you expect somebody to be any different
No, you can't.
unless you give them a reason?
Yeah.
Which
Which is what this administration's going to do.
this is what this administration is trying to do, and it'll happen in a lot of ways. So then you become more responsible with your community, and that's the thing that bothers me with the black leaders and white leaders, and at the top, is that you're going to continue to have this division that we're talking about
Sure
that
we
you
are.
mentioned as big as ever, but how can it be if we're all equal instead? You see what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I thought
do,
about
Gary.
this, Ray. If I'm sitting there and let's say we're on a work crew, 13 guys on this work crew, and we got all kinds of equipment. There's computers there, and there's tractors there, and there's hoists, and there's all kinds of stuff, different things.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's 13 of us. The boss comes by and he sits there, but he always notices that you never see Ray on the computer. You never see Ray on on top of that excavator, and you never see Ray over there on some piece of equipment, but you always see me on there. Okay, and then he says, "Well, how come Ray doesn't operate those?" Well, because Ray's black. So he goes over to Ray and he says, "How come you're not operating those?" "Oh, because I'm black." You see what I'm getting at?
I see exactly where you're getting at.
Okay, so I'm sitting there until the blacks and the whites start treating each other and go put on glasses you can't see color.
Thank you.
Because there's no other reason for it.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you what, I come back to this a lot, where it's proven in World War II, one of the top fighting squadrons of anywhere, both wars, was the black fighting squadron.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been proven.
The Tuskegee Airmen.
Yeah, and Ray, you just look at the results. So you say, "Oh well, they did this because they were black." No, they were fighter pilots. Period.
And they went through a heck of a lot of bad things.
Oh, my
even
God.
the movie depicts that
Oh,
when
my
they
God.
first came in, they spit at them. They wouldn't let
Right.
them into the officers' club. And at the end, I remember there was a guy from Lubbock, Texas, in the movie. It's a great movie. And he wouldn't have anything to do with them. And at the end, when they decided to make that last trip, he said, "I don't know about you." His exact words, "I don't know about you, old boys, but I want that colored squadron escorting
That's
me."
right.
You
Yeah,
know, it's
I
a
remember
great
that.
scene,
yeah.
you know.
And it's so ridiculous for people to sit there and somehow perpetuate. And I blame I call them the black pimp. They pimp the blacks for welfare pimps, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
They're as guilty. In fact, I look at
Sure
them
they
as more
are.
guilty than I do these, like Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a racist. To hell won't have it. And so is that Democratic Party.
Well, sure.
I mean-
and then you've got idiots like Al Sharpton and Jesse.
Exactly.
They're thugs. That's
They're
what they are.
thugs,
They're
yeah.
thugs, and they perpetuate this.
There
you know?
is-
They perpetuate this. These people, as far as I'm concerned, they're worthless. They're absolutely
Right.
worthless.
And they do more to hurt the black people than white people do. Because
Yes.
being black, they should be responsible and accountable and teach. And which I kind of, we talked about that before, that
Yeah.
way back when, that Malcolm X, and of course he was Muslim and all that, but man, he had some ideas that just when he was starting to come out with it, that's when he got killed.
They killed him.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Gary.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a little break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back in two. And by the way, if you're watching us right now, we're live. So there's a number that will appear on the screen when we come back. Give us a call. We want to hear from you. I'm back with Gary Miguel, and I'll tell you, it happens every time this man is on. He's so interesting. We're out of time. So I'm going to do what I do every week because I gotta get a promise out of him. I want you back.
Okay.
Okay. We need you.
We'll
we
come
need
back.
you. And let me close by saying, in lieu of what's been happening lately with our law enforcement officers, what these idiots are doing that are out, they call themselves demonstrators. They are not demonstrators. Mahatma Gandhi in 1948 demonstrated against the great British Empire. Martin Luther King demonstrated against injustice in 1965. These people are rioters. That's what they are. Stop it, okay? Realize that you live in the greatest country in the world, that you have no gripe, and this country is moving forward. And I want to say, as I do every weekend, please, when you see a law enforcement officer, go up and shake his hand and tell him how proud we are for the job that they do. And for you idiots that are out there and hurting our law enforcement officers, stop doing it. So like I say every weekend, until we meet again joyously next Thursday, heaven's blessings.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Thank my lucky stars to be living here today. 'Cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died.